Let's focus a little bit now on the whole area of innovation in banking. Mark, I mean, what is the secret of innovation in banking in a big institution? I mean, it's very easy to talk about innovation. Well, we have to innovate, but actually, big institutions are hopeless at it, aren't they?
From our perspective of the supplier of software to banks, what they ask us for is IT technology that allows them to innovate and doesn't restrict them. That's what they ask us for. And as they talk to us about usually when they're talking to us, they're talking about their longer term strategy. In fact, it's interesting, we've seen a change in the market from banks talking to companies like us 10 years ago would really have said to us, this is what we do today, can you please do it more efficiently? Can you just run it more cheaply or whatever? They don't say that now. They say, we assume you can do what we do today. What we want to know is how flexible and innovative how is your solution going to enable us to be innovative over the next 5 to 10 years. It's all about the capabilities and the architecture and the flexibility. And they ask us for that for a variety of reasons, but I think a number of them are very quickly changing customer demands, new entrants into markets, ability to adapt to regulation, both in terms of products for customers, but also in terms of efficiently adhering to regulation and all sorts of things. So that's what they ask us for, very innovative solutions around that. And I think the idea is that solution doesn't become the restrictive factor, because it's hard enough to change a bank anyway, not just the IT system. So let's not make the IT system the restrictive factor.
Anthony, I mean, obviously everybody would agree that Metro is innovative, no question about that. But in a way, it's easy to be innovative at the start, isn't it? I mean, how are you going to keep up this culture of innovation as you grow? Isn't it easy to fall into sort of, well, we do this because we've always done it?
Well, I think it depends upon your definition of innovation. Having challenged you about definitions earlier, what is innovative about Metro Bank? You could challenge us by saying, well, isn't it just like banking used to be 20 years ago? Human beings, the old-fashioned bank manager meeting customers, and indeed a lot of that would be true. I think the thing that makes us innovative is not our underpinning technology, which is very, very good. It is our view of the customer. It is the fact that we, as I said earlier, we put the customer at the centre of everything we do. A lot of people assume, because we have branches or stores as we call them, because we think of ourselves as a retailer, that we are branch-based. The reality is our view of life is you as a customer should be able to choose the channel you want to interact with us, how, when, and where you want it. So if it's by a mobile device on your way to work, if you want to pop into one of our stores on a Saturday or a Sunday, or you want to log on at night to the internet, or whilst you're out, make a phone call to check a balance. Our view, and I think our point of innovation, is you as the customer should choose. What we have to do is make it as great an experience for you as a customer as we possibly can. And I think our innovation, and I'm not a banker as you know, is that all of the time we think about the customer and how we can improve their experience, not how we as a bank can lower the cost of delivery.
Now, Patrick, in the case of Egg, I mean, it was clearly a startup which a big company then bought, right? So the sort of logical deduction of that would be that Citi couldn't have created Egg by itself. It needed somebody outside the industry to kind of think of this creatively, and then they went and bought the innovation. I'm not saying that's bad, but I mean that tends to be the process.
And to be fair to the Prudential, it was Prudential that allowed us to actually take a project of a dozen people thinking of nutty things in a room in Holborn Bars to what became Egg, which became an internet bank. By being in startup mode, we reacted very quickly to the change that was going on around us in terms of the explosion of the internet. And that aggressive change is still going on apace now. As you said, the explosion of smartphones and social media, and soon we're going to have contactless, and we're going to have SIM cards, near-field communications in SIM cards and all the rest of it. And our children are going to regard queuing to pay for things in shops as a really quaint, funny, old-fashioned thing that maybe in another round table in sort of 20, 30 years' time, they'll be going, yeah, well, we've launched a supermarket where you actually queue to buy the food, like people remember from the old days. I think that's very clever. You know, the world's changing very, very quickly, and Richard Duval, God rest his soul, used to tell us all the time, he says, you're in the midst of a revolution, and the thing about a revolution is people always overestimate the amount of change that's going to happen in the short term, but completely underestimate the amount of change in the long term. And we're still on that curve in terms of how people want to interact with different products and services, and how they'll use some of these things and mix and match. And you're seeing already, you know, how Barack Obama used social media to get more people out voting and voting for him. And in Egypt, recent events, you know, a genuine Facebook revolution is, you know, these forces are very strong. And in the sort of the retail consumer field, you know, social media can make or break your product or your business almost instantly. Yeah.
But it is interesting, your point about the younger generation, their engagement with devices. I was speaking at an event last night, which was full of young people, young media savvy people. And I asked them, how many of you have an iPhone or an iPad? And I would say 95% of the people in this room had an Apple-based device. And I said, how many of you have been to the Apple store on Regent Street here in London or in Covent Garden? All of them had been in there. And I said, but why? You can buy every Apple product online. Why would you go as a young person and queue in an Apple store? And it's about the experience. I think we mustn't forget human beings like experience. They like interacting with other human beings. They will queue if it's appropriate, and clearly our job should be to make sure that they don't have to. But I think we lose sight of this human interaction and assume that the future will be technology-based at our peril.
Yeah. So basically, it's the humans that come first, not the technology.
The technology is the enabler.
But you have to have the technology, and it is a revolution. Our background in mobile is in developing markets, in fact, because it's not as big here yet. But in developing markets, you know, you think of it as being less technologically innovative, but in fact, the mobile phone is ubiquitous. You know, we couldn't supply our smaller clients in the developing world without supplying mobile. There's no question. It's the main channel for them, and I don't think that's the case in the developed world, because the channel today is relatively simple. But with the smartphones and with the app and the ability to actually, you know, have a really quite a decent customer experience, I think it's going to be a total revolution.